It feels a lot better. So, when I was given this opportunity, it actually falls right in my domain because I consider myself to be an historian, somebody that do research, somebody that's very proud to be an African, somebody. So we're gonna keep going. We're going to keep going. I'm used to obstacles. Make some noise for yourself. So when I was creating the Heroes album, I looked at the landscape of music in Africa. All the music that's coming out from my contemporaries is music that's just talking about Louis Jolie de Gaulle. Nobody's educating their fan base. Nobody's taking the bull by the horn, talking about our history. And I would like to quote a great philosopher, somebody that I follow incredibly by the name of Marcus Garvey. Yes. The brother Marcus Garvey made a statement that a people that has forgotten its history is doomed for disaster. So I always go back to the statement and I always try to enlighten myself about our history as a people, as Africans. So we're going to start right before slavery. What was our experience as a people, as Africans? What was the atmosphere in the borderland? I believe, and philosophers believe that Africa was called Ethiopia before we had the name Africa. We had great empires here. I think we had the Songhai Empire first. The Songhai Empire was ruled by different kings. We had our own trading system. We had our own culture, our own tradition. Everything was in place, comfortably African. You had the Songhai Empire, then you had the Mali Empire. The Mali Empire, you can trace it back to places like the Timbuktu in present-day Mali, where education was very strong and immense. We had rulers like Mansa Kanka, who was the richest and the wealthiest leader in the world at that time. A person that was traveling to do his trip to the Hajj in Mecca. I was told that after doing my research that the streets of Egypt were painted in gold when he was passing by. That's how wealthy he was. Timbuktu was the place where people from all over Africa came to get some higher learning. So we had systems in place in Africa before they came. You have the Egyptian civilization. The pharaohs were doing their thing in Egypt. We had all these things. And the last empire was the Ghana Empire, of course. Kings and rulers were ruling this land before the Europeans came. And I believe we would have, the only thing we lack as Africans then was great thinkers and great foresight leaders. I believe they had foresight leaders, people that would stand and say, what will this continent be 50 years from now, 200 years from now? I think Africa lacked that, but we had great systems in place. People were trading with the barter system. We didn't have no currency, but we had villages, we had kings, we had chiefs, we had tribesmen. We were flourishing. And then came the first betrayal. What's the first betrayal? The first betrayal is when we start turning against each other as a people. When the strangers came to Africa, they came with some things that we lacked. They came with gunpowder. Tribes were fighting against each other already for territories, to grab land, to grab superiority. And here came the stranger who brought gunpowder. So now I can stand here and shoot you over there and take over your land. Oh, you have that? You are my friend. From the inception, I think that's where things went wrong. I learned this in history that they brought gunpowder, They brought tobacco, they brought spoons, they brought different things that we are not accustomed to. And our leaders then fell for it. They fell for the bait, and then we started trading each other for those goods as slaves. That's when the transatlantic slave trade started. The transatlantic trade, I believe, affected Africa, the continent, in an immense way. Because most of the strong guys that we had, talented and skilled people, all left the shores of Africa for the diaspora, for the Caribbeans, for South America, for North America, and out where we traded ourselves. There are categories, from my understanding. If you're in a village or a township and you're a witch, you'll be traded as one. If you're a prisoner of war, you'll be traded as one. If, you're sleeping with somebody's wife, you'll be traded as a slave. So all these guys going against people's wives, trying to steal somebody's wife, if it was those times, you'll be far gone as a slave. Unfortunately, I think it was intentional as well for them not to keep records. They wanted to break the family lineage, the origin of you as a human being. So if you find out when the slaves were being taken, there was no trace where you came from. From my research, the only place in the North America that you can find the trace of slavery and where like a particular ship came from is in South Carolina. If you go to South Carolina, there's a shore over there where you can definitely see the records of the slaves that were delivered over there and where they particularly came from. And guess what? Most of the slaves that went to South America came from Sierra Leone. Yes, because Sierra Leone was, and still is, we had the great rice planters. North America was for the farming, the rice plantation, the cotton farms, the sugar cane. So all the slave masters were flooding Sierra Leone, coming for great rice planters. And the Caribbeans, I believe, was a transit point. You had places like Haiti. Haiti, I believe, is where they dumped the witchcraft and wizard slaves. It's not a bad thing, because witchcraft and sorcery helped them gain their independence. Do you believe that Haiti is the first country in the Caribbean to gain their independence? Because of their culture, preserving their culture and their heritage, their Africanness, they gained their independence from the French. So, we're moving on, the divide and conquer came in. These people were smart. They took some of us out there, they created the divide, they brought the split. Now, we are left with just dependency. We are left with just looking forward with our hands up, begging to sustain ourselves. But I believe there's still a chance. The chance started when we had leaders like Marcus Garvey in the Caribbean, when he started opening Africans in the diaspora, their foresight in their minds from coming back to Africa, connecting the diaspora Africans to the motherland. And from Marcus Garvey, he inspired other great leaders who actually passed their message on through music. People like Bob Marley and the Wailers. Most people, when they mention Bob Marley, they say, oh, that's Jamba Smoker. But they really don't do the research about what kind of person he was. He was a philosopher, a great philosopher. If you have time, start to listen to his messages, his interviews, and what he stood for. The Pan-Africanism, the unity of Africa, the oneness of our people. I believe from slavery, that's where the borders came, where they started creating borders. This is Guinea, this is Liberia, this is Sierra Leone, this is Nigeria. And now, you started having situations where we start to pledge our loyalty to language and our colonial masters. The French African doesn't see himself as the British African. The British African doesn't see himself as equal as the French African. We are so divided with tribes, we are so divided with borders, we are so divided with language. That is a problem. It has been a problem from inception, it's still a problem to this day. But we had leaders in the 60s who stood up. Leaders who were fighting, who saw the vision of one Africa, who saw the vision of Africa becoming one and uniting and progressing. People like Sekou Touré, who I mentioned, I did a song for in the album. People like Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, who fought against the Belgians, who actually stood up. People like Kwame Nkrumah, who actually fought as well. People like Steve Biko in South Africa with the ANC, that really went all out, sacrificed his life, just to really make a point against the colonialists. All these people were betrayed. Here comes the second betrayal. The first betrayal was slavery, selling our own to the stranger for territorial gain. The second betrayal was when we turned our backs against, the Pan-Africans who were really trying to solidify our stance in history. In the case of Lumumba fought for the independence of Congo, the Congo, and he gave a great speech in front of the Belgian ruler then in the 60s. Lumumba, Nkrumah, they were all in cahoots together with Sekou Touré because they were Pan-Africans. They were fighting for the independence and freedom of Africa. But what did the strangers do? They actually entered our own kind, our own people. You had people like Mobutu Sese Seko, who was, I personally believe, was inspired and pushed by the Belgians to take over the reins of power in the Congo. And Lumumba was finally and eventually killed, and that's where the dream died. To this day, the Congo is controlled by who, the Belgians. Coming back to people like, Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah was actually pushing for one currency, one Africa, and next thing you know, he was overthrown and kicked to the side. He died in exile in Guinea. People like Sekou Touré. Sekou Touré, I think, was misunderstood. When I was growing up, all the stories you hear about Sekou Touré was, he was a dictator, somebody that was really, holding his people down. But when you check deep, you do your research, you do your homework, then you get to understand that he was fighting the bigger picture. He was trying to protect the Africanness of his people. They actually allowed him to do a referendum in Guinea, to see if the whole Guinea nation was willing and ready for independence. The people voted incredibly in favor of Sekou Touré for Guinea to have their independence from the French colony. They gained their independence. I believe they were one of the first nations in Africa to gain independence in Africa. And you know what the French did, right? After Sekou Touré gained that victory, the French packed up all their belongings, computers, their expertise, everything you can think of that the colonialists brought, they took and left Guinea. So Guinea was left dry to die. So these are the obstacles Sekou Touré was faced with because he stood against, the colonial masters. Then they started perpetuating internal conflict, pushing the opposition to fight against him. Yes, sometimes you would say he became ruthless. He was very fierce till his dying day. Sekou Touré was scared, was feared among his peers, and he's remembered as one of the great Pan-Africanists. That's why I dedicated a song on the album for him. Make some noise for Sekou Touré. Are you guys with me? Am I moving too fast? Yes. Usually we'll be in the studio, but today is a different thing. I hope I'm doing great.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm just going through my notes. These are things that I put down myself. Nobody inspired this lecture, by the way. All these ideas and perceptions are definitely directly from Kaodenero. Yes, sir. So, I'm starting from history, the African experience, then we'll come to hip-hop, which is my cornerstone. you know. But I would say Africa was practicing communism in the beginning because, you know, families used to feed families. They would go to the farm, they would fetch what they could get and share with the whole village. Everything was fine. Then they brought capitalism. They brought democracy. They brought the IMF. They brought all these institutions that regulate us as a people. And now, we are really living with our hands tied to where we can't really bring forth policies that can really change the trajectory of our nations, but actually beating to their drum beats, dancing to their drum beats. You know, they dictate different things. They dictate elections. Like I said in the song, Think About It, one of the songs in my album, they dictate so many things, you know, that we are tied under because we lost our grip. We lost our culture. We lost our tradition as a people. We lost our stance. And the case usually be, if you stand up to really speak up, you know how your story will end, right? You know the demise of people like Bob Marley and the others that I've stated. It's been very, very, very tragic. So we pray that we'll have some more new leaders that can stand up, people that can really fight for independence, because we are honestly not really truly independent. You know, the word is vague, independence, but we are not. You know, there's still a vivid colonialistic, you know, vision and idea going around. We have to free ourselves from that bondage for us to really come up as a people, for us to take our true stance, and for us to truly be developed. The next topic I'm going to touch on is the topic of the liberals. Kaodenero, I'm married in this story. I consider myself to be a liberal. Most people in this room will wonder. They know my roots. They know where I was born. I was born in the Port Longo district, Leone to be exact. Yes. Yes. Attended the St. Joseph Primary School, Masoila, and the St. Edward Secondary School, King Tom. So, realistically, I'll be considered as a northerner, as the typical Sierra Leonean would think, and still thinks. But I left most people scratching their heads when we had 2 past elections, and I endorsed a Southern party, a Southern political party. There's a reason for that, you know. The decisions I made was not based on passionate and selfish interest. As a kid growing up, I recognized what brought the war to our country, Sierra Leone. It was when one individual held on to power for over 15 years. When one individual controlled the reins of power in a certain country, it's a very tragic mistake to be done. And I think Sierra Leone did that in the 70s and the 80s. That's what brought about the civil conflict in the 90s. So when we was at the brink of selecting a new leader, I believe history will judge my decision years from now. That, oh, here comes this Stevie boy. I don't even know how to speak Mende. I don't know nothing from the southern region other than touring in the southern townships, doing shows. But I endorsed the Southern Region Party just based on avoiding chaos and conflict in Sierra Leone. I knew that time, if continuation had been the case in Sierra Leone, there was tendency for another fight. There was tendency for another conflict. So that's my decision. That's why I made that decision, and I'm proud of it. But and I still stand by that decision to this day. And when the need arises for Kaodenero to reuse his influence to protect the peace and sanity of Sierra Leone and Sierra Leoneans, I will do the same. I will do the same. So if you're smart, you're intelligent, you will understand what I mean. Definitely, I want to really thank and appreciate the President, His Excellency, President Julius Maada Bio. Yes. For one main reason, you know, not to take away from the topic, but I believe he's a liberal. He's a liberal Sierra Leonean, patriotic Sierra Leonean. Most people misunderstand His Excellency, you know. I've had the chance to really mingle with him in several occasions, and I made my judgment based on him being liberal. Him as an individual, being a liberal president. You know, he has empowered a lot of young people like myself. Some people will say, Kyle, you're thinking political now. You know, you're just an artist. But it was, you know, based on my interaction with His Excellency and the messages that he gave me usually on, you know, getting some further education, empowering myself. My vision should not just stop at being the biggest rapper in Sierra Leone. He has recognized, yes. Thank you. You know, he has really, you know, recognized the potential that I have in me, you know, to really take this thing further. You know, so when people say, oh, Kaodenero, you have to be president, or your dreams are too big, it's by just recognizing the story of His Excellency coming from a village in Bond, Tiu, becoming a soldier, rising up the ranks, and now he's the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone because he took some time to himself to empower himself with education. Education is key, higher learning, and like I would like to follow and pursue this path of empowering myself. I don't think anything is wrong with that. Is anything wrong with that? No! So I'll advise all my fellow musicians, all the artists, to really think about it. It's very important, you know, it's something that will benefit you down the line. Now, I'm going to jump to my next topic. You know, after recognizing His Excellency as a liberal and Kaodenero as a liberal, shout out to all the liberals. People are not thinking about region, or I'm a northerner, and I am a southerner, or I'm this. No, you're thinking based on being nationalistic, being patriotic, and being a liberal. You know? Yes, it's the vision of liberals. Clap for yourself, brother. You know, most people don't understand the mind of a hip-hop artist. You know, a great hip-hop artist, not somebody that's mimicking or trying to be. I see hip-hop artists as philosophers. I see hip-hop artists as news vendors. I see hip-hop artists as poets. I see hip-hop artists as self-educators. I see hip-hop artists as trendsetters. I see hip-hop artists as election influencers, and political activism is in there as well. So, these are the stance that I took when I started doing hip-hop. After we're done with history, I think I'm slowly coming now to the inception and the foundation of hip-hop music, the music that I do. You know, the mistakes of the past is what brought us where we are today as a people. Through slavery, through the second betrayal, through killing our own leaders, through embracing the ideas of the West and letting down our own culture and tradition, our own system of governance. You know, you have some countries in Africa that still practice those systems to this day, and they are doing pretty well for themselves. They are doing incredibly well for themselves. You know, I believe us as a people have to start revisiting those attributes so we can be a great nation. Now we go to the coming of hip-hop. There was a saying by the great philosopher and a great man who was Martin Luther King. He had a quote where he said, "A man should not be judged by the color of his skin, but rather than the color of his character," right? His personality. I believe he was speaking about hip-hop in his I Have a Dream speech. You know, not in literal sense, but in the sense of foreseeing the future. Hip-hop is a culture that I believe started in Africa. That's why I do it unapologetically. You know, I do hip-hop with a proudness of being part of a culture that started in the motherland. You know, why do I say this? I believe hip-hop started from the villages of Africa. It started with the storytelling. It started with the drum players. And these are the same people that were transferred through the slave ships to the Americas. You know, the official year that hip hop started was 1973. Make some noise for that. So in 1973, he had an individual by the name of Cool Ark from the Bronx, New York. He was a DJ. But this guy embodied all the elements of hip hop music. He had 4 elements of hip hop: DJing, graffiti. You know what's graffiti? Graffiti is where you draw on a wall. They might know where the paint spits at the wall there. That's graffiti. DJing, graffiti, b-boying. What's b-boying? B-boying is breakdancing. You know the people that used to breakdance? Back in the 80s and the 70s? That's one of the elements of hip hop. And MCing. MCing is what I do as a rapper. So you have people like Cool Hawk. He started in 1973. And in 1974, 75, you had somebody else by the name of African Bambaataa. African Bambaataa was the second known hip hop artist in the world. And after African Bambaataa, in year like 1976, you had another individual by the name of Grandmaster Flash. Grandmaster Flash had a group called the Furious Five. The Furious Five actually dropped the first hip-hop hit record. The hip, the hop, the hip and the hop. You know that song? You know, that was a group called the Grandmaster Flash. But before 1975, do you know hip-hop was illegal? Hip-hop was illegal. If you wear your pants down, you are considered an outcast. If you DJ, you shouldn't touch the turntable to do any scratching. You will be arrested. You know, corporate America versus the streets. So hip-hop has come a long, long way. You know, but after the first song dropped, the Grandmaster Flash song, that's when hip-hop became corporate. That's when the big machines, the big organizations came in to capture hip-hop and commercialize hip-hop. And you have two, like most people would think, everybody that holds the mic in hip-hop is a rapper. There's a difference. There's a difference between a rapper and an MC. Rapper is somebody who does hip-hop strictly for money. Somebody that's just trying to get wealthy, somebody that don't care about the culture of hip-hop, somebody that's just, I'll give you a typical example of a rapper. People like Nelly. You familiar with Nelly?
Yes, sir.
Nelly is a total rapper. He don't care about the culture of hip-hop, he's just trying to make hit songs and feed his family. Another typical rapper would be 50 Cent. 50 Cent is just a strictly hustler who is trying to make some money and just go about his business. He don't care about the culture, the essence. And now here comes the MC. The MC is somebody literally
Like Kaodenero.
you know, thank you. So the MC is somebody who actually thinks about credibility. You know, somebody that thinks about respect. Somebody that thinks about community. Somebody that thinks about legacy. You know, somebody that stands for something. Those are the true MCs. You know, the MC is a representation of hip-hop wherever he goes. He's thinking about his followers, he's thinking about the culture that he represents. He's not just trying to put out a hit song and then fly by night. He's thinking about representing the culture. So this is the difference between a rapper and an MC. You know, so who is a rapper? From your own sense, my brother. Just help me, let's be interactive here.
Somebody who does music for money.
Yes, my brother is following. And I look for somebody that looks like an MC here. My brother, so who's an MC?
Someone like you, Kaodenero.
Thank you. So always feel threatened when black people are owning up something that's very influential. So do you think it's a mistake when reggae music was diminished in the late 70s? Then came the explosion of disco music. After Bob Marley, the biggest superstar was Michael Jackson. What was Michael Jackson doing? Break dancing, popping, bullcrap. He's a star, I respect him. But 70s was conscious music. People that was passing on a message. People that was teaching the people how to be back in Africa. And then that diminished. Then came disco music. So when hip hop started with all these great rappers that we have, the Tupac Shakurs, the Notorious B.I.G.'s, the Nas, all these great lyricists, I think the powers that be got threatened, they felt threatened. They had to manipulate something. And what they manipulated was the East versus West. Tupac for the West, Notorious B.I.G. for the East. Two friends became enemies. Two friends became enemies. And what was the end result? We lost both of them. They both died tragically. You know, then all the new rappers, the MCs that are coming up now, they always kept that in the back of their minds. Not to go too hard, not to be self-conscious, not to put out motivational music. Just make music that can, like Rick Ross, you just make music just to be a millionaire, just to live a good life. He's not trying to inspire you, he's not trying to motivate you. Those days are long gone. And then we had another age where we had two other rappers. One is an MC and another one is a rapper. I consider Nas as one of the greatest MCs in hip hop, and you have Jay-Z who's one of the greatest rappers in hip hop. You know, both are still for the culture, but I think they both, like, they stand for different things. There's a difference between African hip hop and the American hip hop culture. You know, I think Surinamian hip hop, that's where some of my brothers usually get it wrong. I was getting it wrong in the beginning because I was not aware, I didn't know how to really decipher both. If you practice in the American type of hip hop, it will never go well in Suriname. You'll be an outcast, you'll be looked upon as a gangster, you'll be looked upon as a nuisance in society. You'll be looked upon as a failure. Because American hip-hop is based on being real, coming from the streets, hardcore. I'm not letting go of anything. You disrespect me, I'm going to disrespect you. That would not work in African society. That would definitely not work in the African society. It's a total difference. In Africa, we believe in tradition, we believe in respecting your elders, we believe in minding your words in public. We have certain values that we believe, that we uphold. So you have to learn how to conform yourself from practicing the American type of hip hop to exhibiting the African type of hip hop. And I learned this like 7-8 years ago, that I have to make the transition. You know, I have to make the gradual transition. Even though I grew up in the United States, I have to transform to the African style of hip hop, where you just pass on messages, where you just motivate, where you just uplift, where you entertain, but don't try to practice the realness aspect of hip hop, especially with growth. So to all you kids coming up, those are the things you should really look forward to. You know, don't try to emulate the American lifestyle, because these are two different societies. You know, we believe in two different things, and you will be left by the side of the road if you decide to practice the American type of hip hop here in Africa. So make some noise for that, Joe. Thank you. So I think I've talked a lot. It will not make sense for me not to give you guys a little freestyle from my album. I'm trying not to miss anything. Yes. You know, I hope all you guys here have already streamed the Heroes album. So I have a song on the Heroes album, the intro, titled Think About It. One morning I just woke up and I was thinking to myself, like, yo, why do we have borders in Africa? Who created these borders? Why do you really need a passport to go to South Africa? When we really fought side by side with South Africans during the apartheid regime, you know, people like Mariama Makeba was in exile in Guinea. She died in Guinea. Do you guys know that? She was in exile. You know, so we fought along with the South Africans during the apartheid regime. You know, why today do we need visas as Africans to communicate or to really travel to South Africa? That's the inspiration behind Think About It. So just listen to the lyrics and you be the judge for yourself. Where I was like, yo, think about it, think about it. Black man, what's your life about? So many great people, lights out. Nation sleeping with the lights out. Brothers incarcerated, but others with their teeth iced out. Think about it, why do we need borders? Propaganda the way they report us, our leaders still taking orders. Think about it, why do one need a visa to Soweto? Africa now is skyscrapers, still treated like a ghetto. Tribulations of the past, the real, I couldn't let go. Think about it, the grace is crowded, disease and pain, ideas are shrouded. Seems like they allowed it. They dictate elections, the mistakes were letting, the puppet masters, the toughest bastards. It's just like, yo, we hustle backwards. I pray for the day. We all lose one passports. Minerals to riches, they want to ask us. One Africa to move straight out to the masters. Think about it, think about it. F me up, grab a drink about it, don't blink about it. We still ain't stick together. Shout out to Nkrumah Shekuvera. Fela Kuti, my chain piece for real, hella dookie. Get a better life for real, yo, I tell a dookie. We still not united. We still not united. We still so divided. So much on my mind whenever I would lay up in my bed. The heroes is gone. So much pain and frustration. I put in the song. I pray all the African warriors continue to live on. Blessings, one people, one Thank you.
pictures together later.
After the event, there will be a photo opportunity. When I say make some, you say no, make some. When I say clap, you say no. Clap, clap, when I say cow, say dinero. Cow, cow. When I say ambassador, you say smartness. Ambassador. When I say Dennis, you say clever. Dennis. Sorry, ambassador is Dennis. Dennis is part of the music. You know what I mean? Go and take your picture.
Hello, can you listen? On behalf of the department, I would like to express my deepest thanks and appreciation to Ambassador and his entourage. This department always opened its hands to public officials, to everybody who wants to come and visit the campus. It's something I'll be working on with Mr. Conte.
Mr. Ambassador, I would like to greet you in terms of honor. I would say good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. I have so many questions for you today, but because of time, I'll be limited to ask you only one question. So the question is, the cow I used to know was not a Pan-African. So like, what I would like to know, what prompted you to become a Pan-Africanist? And what gave you the cause to try to teach people the message about the greatness and the greatness of heroes who contributed to the development of Africa? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I personally believe that I've always been a Pan-Africanist, but I was actually not revealing that aspect of my life. You know, for your own understanding, the first artist that I really admired in my life when I started growing up and getting interest in music was Bob Marley. I still remember in Lungi, when I was like 11, 12 years old, I was a fanatic of Bob Marley and the Wailers. You know, I would check about his biography. I just loved the story behind the guy. You know, he came from a village in Jamaica called 9 Miles, on top of the mountains. I came from Lungi. So I started to identify with the guy, even before I started doing music, you know, and started to like read about him, follow his interviews, and he was a very, like an aggressive Pan-Africanist. You know, most Jamaicans, they don't really want to connect with Africa. You tell them they're Africans, they will tell you no, they're Caribbeans. You know, but people like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and reggae artists from the 70s were strong Pan-Africanists. You know, so but because of the nature of our industry, not to say, you know, like I would say their thinking faculty is like babies. You have to like give them teaspoons of knowledge. You cannot just come out of the blue and start to teach. You know, you lose the audience. So when I started my lectures, I made that statement that I was not fast to really explore the Pan-African side of myself, you know, until recently. Because I've already acquired one of the largest fan bases in Leone. I've done shows, I've won countless awards. There's nothing I can lose anymore, you know. So now is the time for me to take responsibility and use the gift I'm given responsibly, you know, to pass on some of the knowledge and some of the ideas that I have. So I've always been a Pan-Africanist.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kaodenero. I'm a student from the Department of History and African Studies, studying cultural studies. From my own observation, I have come to the realization that Ambassador Kaodenero is one of those charismatic individuals who have been declined or rejected the applause or that of the praises which they deserve. But this is my question, Mr. Ambassador. How do you navigate the criticisms or pushback from those individuals who do not understand or agree with your conventional approach? Thank you.
Nice one. Your question actually is on point because this is something I'm dealing with on a daily basis. I'm an individual who I believe is being stoned on a daily basis. I get attacks on a daily basis. I am totally misunderstood, but I believe in eventuality, I believe in due process. I believe that in due time, those who are misunderstanding me will get to understand the true person. I believe, because I believe that, that's why I've been on top of this Leone music game this long. Before, I tend to really try to react, I tend to try to prove a point, but there's no need for that. Now, I'm just focused on achieving things like this, things of this magnitude, things of putting out impactful music, generational and timeless music, breaking new grounds, being the first entertainer to give lectures at the first university in West Africa. That's something huge. I believe these are the things that will silence all those people that constantly come after me. Because, our industry is very sentimental. We support by sentiment. Oh, I like this guy over this guy. So, what that brings is, even if this guy is far ahead of this guy that I like, I'm going to put them on the same level. I am going to argue that they are the same, or my guy is better. But, how you deal with situations like that is just by focusing on your goal, achieving your goal, and continue to prove naysayers wrong.
Yeah, Mr. Ambassador, this is a very short one. Me, a big fan of your album. I stream your song. I was one of the people that started streaming your song, and I downloaded it. Initially, I felt bitter when I started listening to the song. I said, "Wow, how has all these things been? Here comes the silly beefings." Initially, I disliked that. I was against that beefing. I said, "Wow, cow, man, you're too big." I admired you so much in terms of hip hop. At first I wanted to do music, started to rap like you, but when this beefing came up, Stars, you and LJ, blah blah blah, it was very very sad. Your fan base reduced to me. I was out of your fan base. Why? I'm saying it from my heart. But when this Eagles album drops, it revived me back to you. And I will tell you probably that I'm your #1 fan. The question here is, that was a compliment. I complimented you first, right? The question here is, as a superstar, as a hero now, the things of you replying, some fake people, some irrelevant people on Facebook, I want you to stop that. And I don't know why you keep doing that. I want to know why. Because I see you now as a hero. So why?
Nice. All right. I'm happy you brought that to the forefront. But I'll say this though. Do you guys believe that I've been relevant for 20 years because I respond to people? You don't believe that? That because I address certain issues, that's why I'm still Kaodenero? Trust me. If I wasn't that Kaodenero, perception becomes reality, Public perception about an individual, if it's not countered, it becomes a reality. And I'm somebody that people always throw stones at. Kaodenero get by that. Kaodenero this. Kaodenero that. You understand me? I don't have no mouthpiece. I don't have no spokesperson. I don't have no PR person. I am all of these things in one. And the moment I start to really isolate myself from my audience, there becomes a vacuum. And that's how you fall off your territory and your throne. That's how people tend to really forget about you. That's how the perception becomes a reality about you. It fits certain people, like Jimmy B. Oh, Jimmy B, that big man, they answer nobody. It fits them. He's not competing no more. You know, but I'm still in the ring. I know I cannot be doing it too much. I understand certain people I have to ignore. Certain situations I don't have to respond to. You know, but we have a very docile public in society. You know, people that tend to believe anything they see or they hear. And if there's no counter messaging, if there's no reaction, that sticks by you. And people be like, oh, look at the president. You know, he doesn't respond to things. I'm not the president yet. I'm still in the trenches. I still have to go buy a loaf of bread. I still have to deal with people on a daily basis. You understand what that means? When you have to deal with people on a daily basis, you don't have that fence around you. So if you interact with somebody that's already going with a negative perception about you, trust me, that's how they treat you. They behave nastily towards your person. So you have to take it upon yourself to really clean these things up. Clean these things every chance you have. Clean these things up because people are naive. That's my take.
Hello. When I say responding to critics, una say na part of hip hop. Responding to critics, na part of hip hop. That's it. So for promote people with disability, we get one make a statement, we want to ask a question. So don't be a chance. Now part of hip hop, black. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I am Alhaji Lole, visually impaired student at the University of Sierra Leone, FBC to be specific, doing peace and conflict studies. Thank you very much, the great Professor Dr. Ambassador Kaodenero. I am very delighted, humble to be part of your lecture this afternoon. I'm grateful too. I've been following you when I was in Bo, going to school. I attended the Poor School for the Blind primary school. Later, I do my studies at Ahmadiyya Senior Secondary School. I'm a very humble person whenever I listen to you. I'm also grateful when you are with the late Wilno Moses Williams. May he so rest in perfect peace. My question here is, by listening to the year's album, what actually came to mind when you are putting your release together? What came to mind? Because for me, when I listen to it, I felt humble, and also I felt as an African. I felt to be one of the most African person in Africa. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. May the soul of my brother Wilmo rest in perfect peace. By the way, Wilmo was one of my strong DJs in Bo. You know, this brother, we did so many shows together. He was always supportive to Kaodenero, the brand. He was ill around 2 years ago. He died. We lost him. May God bless his soul. The inspiration behind the Heroes album, I would say when I make music, I always usually just put my thoughts, I gather my thoughts and put them on beats. You know, so these are my thoughts. These are things that have been lingering in my head for so long. You know, these are questions that I have. So I'm asking questions for answers myself. You know, say like the song Ghetto Africa. It's a very deep record, one of my personal favorites. You know, with that song I tackled a lot of things. I gave credence and applaud people like Kagame in Rwanda. Paul Kagame, who's a great leader. You know, I feel like I was just tackling issues in Africa. And plus, I look at the landscape. Most of the African rappers are really not doing that kind of music. See, I'm a guy that always likes to stand out. I like to do things everybody else is not doing. If everybody's supporting Brazil, I will support Argentina. That's just me. If everybody's supporting this,